Welcome to the Nerd Powwow. Follow us on YouTube where we upload new videos every Friday, or check us out on your favorite podcast platform. Spoiler warning, we do deep dives on characters, storylines, and theory crafting. With that said, Wayne, who are we talking about today?
Well, Sarah, thanks for asking. We are going to talk about everyone's favorite blind lawyer, Matt Murdock, or better known as the Daredevil.
Devil of Hell's Kitchen.
The Devil of Hell's Kitchen. And Daredevil is from Hell's Kitchen. He's the son of a boxer, Jack Murdock. There was something while I was researching and doing my homework, and I don't know if you guys know this, but I thought this was amazing. So Daredevil came out in 1964. The Ninja Turtles came out in 1984. So the Ninja Turtles obviously were created by this ooze that seeped down in the sewers. Well, just so happened, a small kid basically saved this blind man in the street from chemicals. So there's a joke amongst people that the Ninja Turtles and Daredevil were created at the same time. I just think that's awesome to think about.
I heard that same thing. It was presented to me as canonical, like it was a real thing.
Yes.
So I don't know. It might be a real thing, but it is crazy that to think of. There's that kind of crossover.
I did not know about that until today when I was just reading stuff on Daredevil. Like, that's amazing. That's awesome to even think about.
Yeah,
I've never heard that because I don't think the TMNT aren't owned by Marvel.
No, they're completely different universes, but the creation of Daredevil, Matt Murdock, and the creation of the Ninja Turtles, they're very similar about the kid saving the blind man in the street.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That's really cool.
Yeah, maybe it was a thing. Ninja Turtles got the inspiration from Daredevil for the accident, right? And then they were later down the road, they were like, okay, well, hey, we're just going to say it's official. Because I'm sure Ninja Turtles did crossovers with Marvel at some point.
That's quite possible. But people often forget that Murdock isn't just... They want to attribute his abilities as just his other senses enhancing because of his blindness. And he's not. He's absolutely enhanced from... That was the K9 or whatever that stuff was called. I forget what the chemical was called. But he's actually enhanced, and they gave him that sonar-like ability. Much like a bat, he has that echolocation.
That's really cool to even think that even though he's blind, he still can see. And he sees better than probably we do.
Yeah, in some ways.
Yep.
Yeah, he just has the same weakness as a T-Rex. He's got to stand very still.
No, I saw Ben Affleck. If he takes that baton and he smacks a metal pole, it lights up the entire area, and he knows exactly where they're at, even if it's a wall.
That's really interesting, honestly. That to use the power like that to create, like if he can feel vibrations and then he can feel the difference in vibrations around a shape. That's pretty badass, actually. That's kind of neat.
Yeah.
To be able to use sound like that, and not that unfeasible. I mean, it's feasible to do that.
I mean, bats do it. It makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, and we do it underwater all the time.
Yep, absolutely.
So that's interesting.
Yeah, I went through and I was like, I have to watch the old Daredevil movie from 2002. I was a little bit younger when that came out, so it wasn't as bad as it was for everybody else. I have a little bit of nostalgia glasses. You go back and I was going through clips. That's the way to watch it, is just find exciting looking parts and just rewatch those parts. It cuts it down to like a 45-minute movie, and it's perfect. The fight scenes are cheesy. Disney kind of hid the lead on this property. Would you believe when I go into the Daredevil collection on Disney Plus, I have to scroll all the way to the right, the farthest reaches of Daredevil properties, to even find out that this movie exists.
They even have a trailer for the new series before the movie.
They sure do. They're like, hey, don't judge us too harshly on this. Right. We know why you're here, and it's because you passed all that other crap you probably have already watched at this point.
That's hilarious.
Oh my
And
gosh.
I really enjoyed the series from 2015 with Charlie
Oh
Cox.
yeah, me
But
too.
I've watched the first 3 episodes of this new one. It just blows it away. They've done a great job so far. The Kingpin being the
Yeah,
bear, and it's really,
I'm enjoying it.
yeah.
I do hope that they do this often. Kind of hope they up the pacing a little bit because I don't feel I don't feel a sense of I want to know what's going on, but I don't feel a sense of satisfaction from each episode. I would like each episode to give me something to walk away. I don't mind a cliffhanger. I don't mean an abrupt ending that I'm waiting next week, but I'd still like something satisfying to happen. And that I feel like these episodes are lacking that a little bit. I'm engaged. I want to know what's going on, but
Right.
I want it to be a half an hour longer so that I can get something of some kind of substance from it. I feel like I'm like, oh, now I got to wait another week to hope something of substance happens.
That's
So,
something with
but
Kingpin has always been a character I really enjoy, even from Spider-Man. The 2002 had Michael Clark Duncan playing him. And now,
Sure did. Sure
he
did.
was a great Kingpin.
You know, at the end of
I
that,
think he could have been. Go ahead. Go ahead.
at the end of that role in the 2002 Daredevil movie, I'm sure he said, "I'm tired, boss."
Yeah, I think that I think he could have been a fantastic Kingpin, but the movie just wasn't well directed, so he wasn't. He wasn't utilized properly in the thing. But
Yeah, I wanted to see him fight in
I
a
liked him as
suit.
Kingpin.
First thing when Daredevil gets on that in his suite is he's already taken his suit off and he's just in a white tank top fighting Daredevil. It's like that didn't feel as satisfying. It's like showing him taking his cufflinks off and stuff. I'm like,
But D'Onofrio is amazing as the Kingpin.
100%.
Yeah, because I remember watching
an amazing job.
D'Onofrio played in I believe in one of the Law and Orders, and I didn't really care for his character then, but he came out and he's a perfect Kingpin, and he's played in different series as
D'Onofrio's an amazing actor. He's played in just he was also
Men in Black.
Yeah, he was Pyle, wasn't he? Yeah, he was Pyle in Full Metal
Jacket.
Jacket.
He was. He was.
Yeah.
Yep.
There was.
Yeah, he's
Took me a minute
an
to match
astoundingly
the
talented.
face, yeah.
Astoundingly talented actor. I forget which Law and Order or whatever it was, but the character he had in that had he played him with this like quirk. Like the guy had like almost like like he maybe was on the spectrum or something. He had this this quirk about him, and I like that's talent. That's talent to be able to pull that off without having lived it. He's a great actor.
That's the thing about it. Yes, he is a great actor. It was the character I didn't really care for in Law and Order, but I mean everything else he's played in is like you're right, he's magnificent.
Yeah, I've always enjoyed him, and like I said, he's just fantastic as the Kingpin. I actually liked him, even though I didn't much care for the Echo series. The Echo series wasn't good, but I really liked his role in the Echo series. The way it's almost like you almost feel like a little bit of sympathy for the devil when it comes to Kingpin. Sometimes, he's got the issues with his wife. It's almost like he's motivated to do the right thing, but his methodology is always just fucked. his methodology is like I don't know. He's just like,
speaking of, I can't wait to see where this season takes things. Man, with his methodology and his plans with the city.
Yeah, like and where I'm assuming, and I could be wrong, but when he's going to get to that breaking point, what's going to take him to the breaking point? Because that's something that him and Daredevil have in common. Neither one of them's mental health has ever been good. Daredevil has had frequent mental breakdowns, personality disorders. When becoming different people. He became Jack Blant or whatever the heck the last name was for a while, and he faked his own death. He took his dad's first name, took another full name, and pretended he was dead. he's had all kinds of mental health issues, and so has the Kingpin. The Kingpin himself is all over the place. So that, I mean, and they've actually been something closer to frenemies at times. There was a one line or one series or time when Matt was sentenced to prison. And he was in prison with the Kingpin and Bullseye and a few other people. Hammerhead, all kinds of guys were in the prison, and they're always trying to get him. And it's I think what's Kingpin's wife? Is it Vanessa?
Vanessa, yeah.
Vanessa,
Yeah. So Vanessa Fisk had proof that Matt was innocent, and she told Matt that she would give it to him, but he had to get the Kingpin out too and make him innocent. And Matt told her no. She ends up putting out the information anyway, which gets Matt released, and he felt just obligated to go and advocate for Wilson to get him out of prison, and he did. He ended up getting the Kingpin out of prison, which is pretty astounding.
It's pretty tall order.
Yeah.
You just tell that he's being pretty mellow now. He's trying to go with the program. He's trying to be a good mayor, but it's like a ticking time bomb. It seems like his character right now is just going to explode.
Well, and you can see that grudge that's still there that he has with superheroes. So like he has his own agenda. The political the political side of the show has been really intriguing and fun to watch. I really like where they're taking things. I think it's going to be awesome. And Wayne, I have to say, the Kingpin, definitely one of the better bad guys in Marvel. I think I've always enjoyed him. Like you said with Spider-Man, the animated cartoons, I used to love seeing him on there. Yeah. And, I'm a bigger guy. So of course, as a kid, I had a special bond there with Mr. Fisk, Hey, we might be big, but we're big.
That's right, we're big. We mean business.
We mean business. But yeah, no, I love the character.
I did too. Did you ever read the so I'm a big Spider-Man fan too, obviously, but did you ever read the stuff? Fisk was responsible for killing Aunt May.
Yeah. I saw that panel.
Yeah. So Peter, he gets Kingpin's in prison, and Peter goes to the prison as Spider-Man and takes off his mask and beats Kingpin within an inch of his life unmasked. It's not Spider-Man doing this, it's Peter fucking Parker.
It's Peter Parker whooping your ass.
That was dark. Like, for all of the fighting abilities and everything else the Kingpin has had, he didn't that was the most vicious and visceral I've ever seen Parker, and it was just that was a great run. I loved that. That was a Spider-Man Back in Black, because he was wearing the Venom colored costumes.
Anytime Peter Parker lets his guard down and really lets loose, I fucking love watching Spider-Man at 100%.
Oh.
Superior Spider-Man when Octavius takes over Spider-Man and his body, and I think the first thing he does is he rips the lizard's jaw off, and he's like, oh. Fuck, Peter's been holding back against everybody. What a fool was his first thought on that. He's like, he could have solved crime a long time ago. I like that plot line where he starts making like little spider drones to monitor the city and that whole thing. But
yeah, that was another great line. Did you guys read the thing in the fight when Peter's threatening Kingpin's life after he's beat him and he's holding him up with the one hand? He threatens to fill him up and completely with his webbing.
Oh, that's such a gross thought.
He's like, it takes 3 seconds, and he's like, 1, and he literally sticks his fingers in the Kingpin's mouth. He's like, 1, 2, and all the inmates were like, oh shit. I mean, that's the kind of that's my kind of fight. That's just kind of like, there's no holds barred. It's in it. It's
absolutely.
Oh, it's good. I loved that. But yeah, it's good shit.
Go back to Daredevil. He came out in 1964 in the comics.
Yeah.
He had just a D and he had yellow, black, and red. And I think it was issue
Very
4. He
disgusting.
finally had the D for Daredevil, still yellow.
Yeah, the
By issue
yellow
6,
suit wasn't received well, was it?
no. By issue 6, he was all red, and he's been red ever since.
Yeah. Well,
So, yeah,
actually,
that's
he
my
had
Daredevil.
he had like a bluish costume that had armor plates on it for a while
I do remember that
too.
yeah.
That was like his '90s. Everything's extreme in the '90s, and it was
Yeah.
like extreme Daredevil.
Oh man.
Yeah.
You know, in the
It's always-
2002 movie, the Foggy Nelson. Do you know who played Foggy Nelson in that movie?
I don't remember.
John
I don't
Favreau,
remember.
the limo driver, Tony Stark's limo driver. He's Foggy Nelson in the original movie.
I didn't
Really?
remember that.
Yeah. There's a lot of little gems in there. You know, they had Bullseye too. Bullseye, you know what? Bullseye had some pretty sick scenes in there, which kind of match the comic books for how Bullseye is, because he's a sociopath, right? He's freaking nuts.
Right.
He loves killing people. It's like his thing. He loves killing people. So there's a scene where he takes 6 paper clips and he kills a guy across the room. That's a feat from the comics. It's not very realistic. I don't think they do that on the Netflix Daredevil. They show him deadly accurate, right? But in this movie, they show like a comic book feat, like something that's just way too, crazy, right? The other scene I was cracking up about is he's sitting on Bullseye's sitting on an airplane. There's an old lady sitting right next to him. She's just yammering on about all this stuff, and he's listening to some metal music because it's an early 2000s movie. And you can tell he's just overhearing this lady, and he's just struggling not to kill her. And then you can see he gets an idea, and he opens his pack of peanuts, and she's still yammering on. He puts a peanut on his desk, and the eating tray, and he just flicks it. It kicks off the eating tray, and it goes right down her esophagus, and she chokes to death. It's so campy, it's so silly, but it was
funny.
fun.
But
it was fun.
It was, but I tell you, I love that fight with him and Daredevil in the new series, though, where he's just constantly sticking him, and I love that like Daredevil's not blocking these or anything else. He's just absorbing just blade after blade. Like he's that was pretty. It
was pretty brutal.
That was pretty great.
Seeing him on the
and I'm wondering if they're gonna. I'm wondering if they're going to. You know that in the comics, Bullseye has a adamantium spine.
Yeah,
his spine is adamantium. I forget what happened.
Is that how he survived that fall?
Maybe. Oh, I don't know if they're going to do that in the comics.
Because Daredevil just pushed him off the building.
Yeah, I'm wondering if
he's alive.
Off you go, buddy.
Yeah.
That's kind of cool if they do that. They because they just introduced adamantium into the MCU. They're using it with the Celestial stuff. That'd be a great.
Here's the question to pose to you guys. Bullseye walks up and says, "Hello, Karen. Do you know how he knows her?" Because I don't remember that from the 2015 series.
Wait, Bullseye said that to Karen?
Yes, as he's walking up, because he's holding on to Foggy, and he walks up and says, "Hello, Karen." And then that's when Daredevil comes and busts him through the window and fights on. But at that point, it's like, how does he know her as Karen? And
I don't know that.
I was just curious about that.
Yeah, that's an interesting question.
Unless he's just doing his research, it's not like it would be hard to find out who she is.
But,
in the comics, she's dead. She's long dead in the comics, but it looks like they're keeping her around, like kind of switching things up with the unfortunate Foggy stuff.
Yeah,
but it was the Kingpin broke Bullseye's back. So Bullseye failed to kill Daredevil.
And a little hypocritical of Wilson Fisk to kill somebody for not killing Daredevil.
Right.
Yeah. So, But yeah,
This
there's
guy
a
think he is?
he actually drops him from several floors up, and he falls and breaks his back.
Really? So then did Wilson Fisk pay or however help Bullseye?
I don't know how. I don't think so, but I'm not sure. Let's check that out.
Wilson Fisk has the money and I guess all the technology to do such.
No, Lord Darkwind brought him back to Japan and had the adamantium put in.
Okay. That adamantium. That'd be actually kind of cool if it's real.
It's true. I could see a lot of crazy military applications, though.
Oh goodness, yes.
May there never be a metal like that for real.
Yeah,
no.
I guess
I can only
that's
imagine.
Fair. Oh my gosh.
We don't need anything more deadlier than what we have. Good Lord.
Let alone put it in
I mean, although it's funny because adamantium's heavy. You ever read in the comics, Wolverine oftentimes will have a difficulty because if he gets in the water, he just sinks to the bottom. So you'll find him just walking along. He's suffocating and surviving and all this other stuff trying to get out. But
just a 5'2", 350-pound Canadian at the bottom of the lake.
It's kind of like Juggernaut, just walking through the middle of the bay.
Periodically drowning, waking back up, walking a couple more feet.
It's so funny.
It's awful. Man, it'd suck to be Wolverine some days. Oh my gosh. So Frank Miller had a huge influence on Daredevil and his popularity. From what I've heard is that Daredevil, prior to Frank Miller and his adaptation in the early 80s, Daredevil was kind of a crappy hero in a way because you already had Spider-Man and most people were fine with just having Spider-Man and, like, why would I read Daredevil when we have Spider-Man? And Frank Miller introduced more of a crime comics and kind of established more of a grittier tone for Daredevil, I think, which kind of dragged him a little bit away from that identity, that Spider-Man clone identity that he kind of got a bad rap for early.
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, they really did. Even the way he used his batons in the chain rope thing swinging around. I mean, it was very Spider-Man-esque in visually, even though the powers were different. But
yeah, they introduced Black Widow. They had the Hand came in Daredevil comics at that point. Mm-hmm. We had Elektra, and they kind of took kind of a noir film type of aspect to it, just to give it a more serious tone.
It did, and the one that picked up, because it's actually a big debate in the Daredevil fandom, is who did it better, Miller or Bendis? Because Michael Bendis ran, I think it was like 98 to 11 or something like that. He was. It's arguable which one was better. They were both just fantastically written times. Because I'm a big Miller fan. I like Frank Miller a lot. But Bendis did a really fantastic job. They did.
Between Bendis and Miller, I think the ones that you can say that both did awesome with that. I think Miller really dragged the character into prominence, though, and
he did
had more
absolutely
influence.
Yeah. I mean, Bendis didn't come around till, like I said, the late '90s. So Miller saved him long before that. Timing wise, I mean, I think that Miller put him on the map, and just that Bendis was just a really solid
successor.
Solid successor. He's like, I mean, I don't think he apprenticed, so to speak, but he kept the spirit. He kept the character. He just did it because Bendis did a lot. He was the one with the Kingpin stuff. He really built into the Kingpin. Because I would almost say, you were talking about the noir. It's the Miller Daredevil was almost Dick Tracy-ish. It kind of had that like the villains felt Dick Tracy-ish. It wasn't as campy. It wasn't as didn't have that like overly campy thing that Dick Tracy had, but it absolutely had. I think Hammerhead and stuff were the big enemies. Then Hammerhead's literally flat-headed guy that charges India.
Guy used too much hairspray, and he thinks he's a supervillain.
Yeah,
this freaking nerd.
Smash you with his Aquanet. But yeah, so
remember Hammerhead in the Spider-Man series. Yeah, he's just
gets his head stuck in walls.
Yeah, just.
Oh no, drywall! I'm screwed, boss.
Oh, get a 2x4.
Oh man, I did notice at the end of Daredevil they did have the cops with the Punisher tattoos. Yeah. At least that's so. What I think they might end up doing is following a little bit of a Punisher beat with that story. So there was a time in Punisher where there were a lot of cops that were in the Punisher comic books where there were cops that were wearing the Punisher, mantle. And man, Frank Castle did not like that.
And that actually happened in real life as well. Marvel Comics ended up changing the Punisher logo because there were police that were starting to adapt the Punisher logo, and they really felt like that was incorrect. Punisher was supposed to be someone who was a vigilante taking law into his own hands, and that's not what the police are there for. So that's when they changed it over to he started. Was it the Hand he took over? Who did he take over? There was a criminal organization he became the head of, and that's when they had that new logo that was kind of like a devilish horned. If you look up the Punisher's current logo, it's totally different.
Okay, yeah, they must have changed it up then.
Do you think it's going to be Joe Bernthal that's playing Punisher again?
I sure hope so.
Oh yeah, he's already been confirmed.
Yeah, he's just really perfect at it. He might be one of the best Punishers that they've had out.
Far and away. I think they've butchered the Punisher every time until now.
Yeah, I really like Bernthal as the Punisher. I've seen the shorts where he's talking about going to a comic book store to figure out who the Punisher is because he didn't really know the character when he got the role, right?
Yes.
And he goes into the comic book shop and he grabs a whole bunch of the comic book Punisher comic books, brings them to the counter. The employee looks at him, he's like, "You're the new Punisher." And he's like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Get rid of these. You aren't reading these." And then he gives him a stack of comic books that's like required Punisher reading. And he's like, "You need to read these."
That's great. That guy's probably solely responsible for the Punisher being so good. But it is the Hand. I confirmed it. He joined the Hand organization in the comics, so that's his Hand organization. But
I do enjoy when actors have to they know nothing about the role that they're going at. There's a couple instances. Jim Cummings was said, "Hey, you're doing the voice of Darkwing Duck," and just he had to figure out who Darkwing Duck was. And then same with Cal Dodd. I'm sorry, when he had no idea who Wolverine was, so he had to do all this research and everything like that. And I think that makes them better actors at it because they come in with a fresh slate, unbiased. I think that makes them better. And Joe Bernthal is just a really good Punisher. I think because of that.
On that line, Patrick Stewart, he didn't know who Professor X was. And I think when he first looked at a comic book, he's like, "Why am I in a comic book?" So yeah, I definitely love those types of interactions with actors. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a good argument for the flip side too, because some people, really do a great job because they have a passion for the character too.
Yeah, so, Ryan Reynolds, of course, right?
Yeah, Ryan Reynolds, Cavill. Cavill plays a lot of characters he has a lot of passion for, has a lot of knowledge of. So I think it's good. There's flip side to both, but and like speaking of that, the police and the Punisher or in the Daredevil thing, I really don't feel like at the end that guy in the Punisher logo is Bernthal. I don't think that's the Punisher. I'm pretty sure that he's probably going to show up to correct people thinking that it's him. So
I think
we'll
it might
see.
be like a copycat.
I think it's the police. They all had that Punisher-like logo, and if you notice, it is slightly different. I think it's those corrupt cops. So
that's a good take, because I came away with saying, "Oh my gosh, it's the Punisher!" But when you mentioned that, like, that kind of makes sense.
They could be going down that line.
Yeah.
I think the quote
they would have
that
showed
the
his face
Punisher
otherwise.
the quote the Punisher says in the comics is, "I'll say this once: we're not the same. You took an oath to uphold the law. You help people. I gave that up a long time ago. You don't do what I do. Nobody does. You boys need a role model. His name is Captain America, and he'd be happy to have you."
Perfect.
Yeah, the Punisher he is a character that it all depends on the writer. Like sometimes he's a psychopath. He shoots somebody for jaywalking kind of guy. Like, geez, come on, Frank. Other times he's this, just a guy who's tired of the bad guys coming back. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But who came first?
We got the Marvel Rivals version of the Punisher, which is a chunky Frank Castle, just all muscles. He's so big.
It's really odd how they made him quite so beefy. I'm just wondering. Marvel has a villain called the Scourge of the Underworld, and there were entire chains where he basically went through and slaughtered all the villains. He would even arrange fake meetings. There's a fake meeting in a bar, and all these B-list villains were there, and he shows up and mows them all down. He was in there as the bartender, serving all of them, waiting for them all to show up and kills them all. But I'm just kind of curious who came out first. Yeah, I'm just wondering who came first.
Chicken or the egg?
Him or the Punisher?
That's a good question.
I was like, hey, wait.
I was always thinking the Daredevil's start with his dad Jack. He was paid. He was told, "Hey, you were losing this match."
Yep.
But it was the one time Matt came and watched his dad to fight, and nope, wasn't having any. I am not losing in front of my son.
Yep.
They murdered him after that because of this.
Yeah. And his mom kind of went off her rocker, and she became a nun.
Yeah.
Sister Maggie. And she actually is in the comics fairly often. She kind of is his Matt in the Nuns is a recurring theme, even in the Netflix series. That's where he ends up, is in monastery. But she's always been watching over him. She's organized things. She's faced some of his villains, so it's kind of funny. But she's a relevant character. And going back to the Punisher, came out in '74. The Scourge didn't come around to '85.
Okay.
So I was just curious. Yeah, Scourge of the Underworld was a good series. He was just taken out. It was kind of like Marvel doing a cleanse of all of its B-list villains. Like, where did they go? What happened to them? Nobody kept them up, so they were just killing them off. All of them
in the Frank Castle meat grinder.
Yeah, that's what it seemed like.
Oh, that's great. Man, the action in the new Daredevil, it is just as good, if not better, than the original Daredevils. The thing is, they keep those shots and they stay on those shots for the longest time. They'll keep the film rolling and they don't do cutaways. The Iron Fist series on Netflix got panned really hard because they did all these cuts in between, like almost every punch, it felt like. And when they do that, it's just because they didn't bother to do the choreography and really learn the fight scenes. But in Daredevil, it's almost like a dance at a point, where these things are happening in order and it's continuous. Just the way they shoot it, it's mind blowing every time. They do so good with that.
It is. You feel it. Like it's like sometimes fight scenes are, even when they're well choreographed, sometimes fight scenes are kind of like, okay, they're fighting. Like I've seen this fight 1,000 times in 1,000 movies, and it's and I'm just kind of like, okay, get to the point where the good guy wins. You know what I mean? Whatever. But this is different. It takes on a quality. I mean, yes, Daredevil has the upper hand in the fight. He's winning the fight, but he is just
barely.
Yeah, I mean, like
it feels like
destroyed. I mean, he's
got like 10 knives in him.
He's the definition of you should have seen the other guy.
Right. I mean, he's just a pincushion, and like that. It felt like I felt it. Like I'm like, Jesus, how is he still going on? Like he's just getting, and it's realistic because honestly, you don't die from stab wounds. I mean, you do, but I mean, you don't die like immediately. Being stabbed is a slow, awful death. Especially with throwing knives. A throwing knife, unless it's like just happens to get in between your ribs and get a hold of a heart, something like that, or maybe a lucky puncture. But most of it, you're just getting punctured. So you could keep functioning. You can keep moving. It's
to his credit, he was leaving the knives in, so they weren't doing any extra bleeding, except the ones that Bullseye reclaimed. Yeah, it's like, okay, well, Charlie, you keep those knives in there until you get some medical care.
I was half expecting to see. That's exactly what I was saying. I was half expecting to see the Night Nurse pop up. She's a big in the comics, and she was who was that? That was in the
season 1.
Who acted at that?
I can't remember her name.
The actress.
Yeah.
She's a famous actress. I thought she was a great Night Nurse.
Yeah. I thought she did exceptionally well, and like she goes in, she even kicks ass in her own scene.
Yeah.
I think there was like a child kidnapped or something, and they went to the docks, her and Daredevil. Daredevil was kicking ass, and then she came in for like the final blow or something. It was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Now, mind you, Bullseye.
It's Rosario Dawson.
Yeah, true.
It's Rosario Dawson.
Rosario Dawson. That's right.
She's a great actress. Yeah. Anyway, I'm a big fan of hers.
Mm-hmm.
But
Bullseye, in a one property of Daredevil's, he can kill people with paper clips. And, our more recent, show, he can throw about a half a dozen, 2 dozen. I don't know. I lost count of the number of blades that went into poor Matt. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, the original one, the Affleck Daredevil, really was just trying to be very comic book.
Yeah.
But and that's okay, but that's also why a lot of the comic book movies of that era failed. Well, they didn't. Yeah. It was too much. It was too, it's like, it's in live action. It doesn't translate well.
It felt a lot more like a Batman movie in a lot of regards, but then it was also, some of the parts were just really campy. Like the one scene that just bothers me is the place, the playground fight scene between him and Elektra just in their street clothes. She has no idea that this blind lawyer is a superhero, and they're up there. They're really, kicking the tar out of each other in this choreographed, obvious dance of a fight. But like, just, like the sure-footedness and the way he lands and everything. It's like, okay, this guy's obviously a superhero or not blind. And a gymnast. Like that part was very silly. It's like, okay, so you're both just in your street clothes doing this shit in a playground. And like, he's playful with it. He throws his stick up in the air and like it's hanging in the air for like an hour and a half. And then he catches it and they fight. It's crazy.
Yeah. It's funny you say stick though. You know that his trainer, the guy who turned him into the fighter he is, his name was Stick. He was, and that was another blind guy.
Yep.
And that character was, what an ornery old cuss that guy was. I mean, he was just a bastard. But what's funny is the TMNT, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle, going back to that kind of thing. Splinter and Stick, there's some parallel there too.
Yeah.
Like,
yep.
I could see that, yeah.
Yeah, that's funny.
And then the way they portrayed Stick in the 2015 series, I really liked this character.
And that's another actor. So who is that? That's
the actor. I'm not sure, but he did a great job.
Oh yeah.
And that guy's been in everything.
Yeah, I recognize. What is it?
Yeah, Scott Glenn. He's just, that guy's been in more. He's like the guy who's like in all these movies, but you don't really know who the hell he is. Yeah, he played in something else that I really liked him in. He's been in.
He looks he's just the old guy in a movie that looks like he's made out of coffin nails. Like that's all there is to describe the guy. Like he looks like he's just made for structure and form, and I feel like you would seriously break something if you punched him.
Yes.
Yeah, but even when he was younger, he had that kind of that same kind of grit and vibe.
Yeah.
He's the movies he's been in. Every movie he's been in, you've heard of. I mean, he was in Silence of the Lambs, the Bourne Legacy, Sucker Punch.
Oh yeah, he was in Sucker Punch too.
The Bourne Ultimatum. He's in all of these different movies, and that are just like everybody's Training Day.
Yeah,
there's a ton of different movies, but there was something he was in way Backdraft. He was in way back that I'm trying to place, and I can't place it. He was West Tower in Urban Cowboy way back, but
yeah. You bring up Sucker Punch. Did either of you see that movie?
I love that movie.
I love that movie.
That movie was universally panned, and I loved that movie.
I saw it in theaters. I thought it was phenomenal. I thought it was really good. I am afraid to go back and rewatch it now, though, after all these superhero movies have come out with really good graphics. I'm afraid it's not going to stand up as well as it used to, just because the bar is so much higher than it used to be.
Yeah, I would say that the special effects, it's not as impressive as it was at the time, but they're not bad to this day. I watched that movie 2.5 years ago. I watched it again like 2.5 years ago, and I wasn't put off by even when she's fighting that large samurai shogun type guy. Remember she's at that. I love that movie, because the thing I liked about that movie is we live in an era right now where movies are either sequels or pulled from some other kind of intellectual property. I mean, I love superhero movies. I love science fiction, etc. But everything is based off of comic books that have been around for 100 years, or based off of Star Trek that's been around for 100 years. All of these things where it's some sequel or re-envisioning there is not a lot of fresh new content, a new character, a new type thing. That's really what I liked about that. It was a movie that was unrelated to any universe, unrelated to any kind of thing, and I don't see that enough. I don't see it enough.
Yeah, it was also they used a really creative way to show this character breaking out in her mind within this psychiatric facility. Just very well done. It was fun. I thought it was fun, but it was also a little thought provoking. Perfect movie, and it's
up to the person watching it to decide what parts were real and what parts were not.
Yeah,
and I really liked that because they don't ever give that to you.
No, they don't spoon feed you anything in that for sure.
They don't. You don't know like how well these girls knew each other. How much were they interconnecting in their dreams? Were they dreams? What was the deal? How was because when you see them in their like real life persona, they're almost catatonic at times. And I don't know, I loved it.
Yeah.
And I love that movie.
For sure.
But I'd like to see
Stick was in there.
More of that kind of thing.
A lot of A lot of good movies he was in.
Yeah, he's a good actor. He reminds me of who's the guy that played in Aliens as the android? As the second Alien movie, Aliens.
No idea.
Yeah, not sure.
You'll know it when I say it. Oh, come on. It's Lance Henriksen.
Lance Hendrickson.
You don't know who Lance Henriksen is? He's look up his picture. When you see his face, you'll know who Lance Henriksen is.
Fair enough.
He's literally a sci-fi. He's just a. How many movies has Lance Henriksen been in? I'll bet you it's an insane amount. Is he still alive? Yeah, he's still alive. 84. But he's in the Terminator movies. He's been in all kinds of stuff. He's a fantastic actor. Like I said, you Google his picture, you'll know who he is.
Oh yeah,
he's been in. Yeah, I'm like he's been in 266 movies. he's in a movie. He was in a movie last year, and he's got 2 coming up, and he's 84 years old. But I get him and the other guy from who played Stick. I get those two confused.
That's fair. I honestly, I think they were. I think I thought they were the same person.
Yeah, they're very interchangeable. But yeah, I've always liked because he was like I said, the what did they call them in Aliens? They didn't call them androids, or did they? What did they call them in Aliens?
Power of Google.
Yeah.
Google go.
I guess they just called them synthetics. Synthetics, yeah.
Synthetics.
They called them synthetics because in the original Alien, it was the synthetic that betrayed them. So she really had a hate for them when she found out that Lance Henriksen's character was a synthetic, but he ended up being he helped them, and he was torn in half, helping him out.
Oh,
but Ash, yeah.
Hate when that happens.
Ash was the shitty one in Alien, and Bishop was the good guy in. I like that guy. I'd like to see that guy. He's like I said, he's 84 years old. I don't know how much money more he's got in the tank for acting, but he was. I like him in roles, so we'll see. He would have been a good Stick because those guys are interchangeable.
It's fair. Who else do we got?
With inside the Daredevil verse?
Daredevil.
Well, here's one is Kingpin's son. Most people don't realize that Kingpin's son is a fairly prominent character. He goes by the Rose. Yeah. He wears a suit. He's thin, and he wears a mask. He's another criminal underworld kind of guy. He oftentimes works against his father. I forget his actual name. I just know him as the Rose. He dresses in a suit, has the whole kind of look and vibe, but it's Richard Fisk. It's his name.
That's right. He was in the Spider-Man cartoon.
Was he?
Was he?
No, yeah, yes, he was. Now that you mentioned Richard Fisk, yep, he was in the Spider-Man cartoon. That's how I know.
Yeah, he was also known as the Schemer for a while. He was the Schemer, but the Rose is what he does. And he wears a white suit, much like his dad, but he wears a mask, and he's thin. He's not built like his father.
Now, was that Vanessa's child, too?
I don't know that, to be honest. Let's check that out.
Oh, okay.
Now, as far as I know, they just called him Richard Fisk in the Spider-Man cartoon.
It is Vanessa, yes.
Okay.
So, but yeah. And there's the Kingpin has several children. He's got Princess Fisk too. Let's see how many children he has. See, I know he's got several kids. He's got the Rose. He's got Princess Fisk, who he adopted. Butch Fisk. I have no idea who the hell that is. and then Echo, Maya Lopez, was his. He adopted her, but I have no idea who Butch Fisk is.
Butch Fisk.
Which I think is it looks like they may have retconned his name to Byron.
But he
goes by Butch or Butchie.
Butch or Butchie. Looking back at Rose, he kind of reminds me of Helmut Zemo.
Yeah, I can see that in a suit.
A little bit, yeah.
Did you guys finish the Echo series?
The Marvel MCU series?
Yeah.
I've watched everything that they've had out.
I didn't end up finishing it. I ended up. I think she tried to kill him. That's where I ended it. So I obviously he didn't die.
She blinded him. She blinded him. Took out one of his eyes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that was DeFenorio. That was him in that series, and he did a great job as Kingpin.
They made him feel a little bit more like a supervillain too. In that, at least my perception was like it seemed like he had more super-ish powers. It felt like he seemed stronger. He seemed like he was able to take hits a little bit better. Like I think there was an explosion right fucking next to him, and he didn't die from that, which is different from the Netflix Fisk, which I think was more realistic as far as tone goes. But who knows how they'll handle him in this property though, in the new Daredevil.
Just waiting for the new series. I'm just waiting for his character to just eternally explode, and just all this calmness that he currently has is just going to kaboom.
Yep.
It's coming. It's coming.
It will.
It is.
Yep.
And I'm curious if they're going to do anything weird. Like there's another little known thing about this wasn't too long ago, but was Mike Murdock. So Matt used to pretended there for a while, and this is recent. These were fairly recent comics. He pretended he had a twin brother, and he would use that kind of thing as another alter ego. And but the reader, one of the Inhumans, actually manifested a real Mike Murdock who believed himself to be the twin brother of Matt. But the funny part is in the comics, he became good friends with Byron, the Kingpin's son, which is interesting. I didn't realize that Byron was the one they were calling Butch and Butchie, but yeah.
Huh.
But yeah, it's kind of different thing. And then he was killed. It looks like he was. I didn't realize this, but he was killed by the Kingpin. The Kingpin thought it was Matt, and he beat him to death with his bare hands.
Oh,
jeez.
Leave it to the Kingpin, to take things a little bit too far.
That's just my
a little bit.
The Kingpin is just such an awesome character.
It's unsettling.
Awesome villain.
Yeah, almost like Negan in a way. It's unsettling to see him on screen too, because you're like, what's he gonna end up doing here? Is everything fine? Are we good, Kingpin? I see you staring at that white that white picture you have in your room very intently. Is that the only thing keeping you together, buddy?
Yeah, there's not much keeping them together.
No.
And it was funny, I wonder if I noticed that D'Onofrio is looking fairly thin. He's lost a lot of weight.
Yes.
I think they mentioned that too in the episode. I think
they do.
Yep,
they do. He's looking trim, etc.
Looking svelte.
But because in the comics they would have him. They actually had him dressed up like in a sumo. Like he's wearing. I don't remember the proper name for the sumo attire that wrap that they use. But they have him in that, and he looks like a sumo in the comics. He's like rippling with muscle, but he just has that power lifter / sumo stature and like girth in the midsection. And I really liked that version of the Daredevil in the comics. This idea of this mountain of a man who isn't an Adonis, but he's just he's just got that power. Because every time you watch a powerlifting competition, that's how those guys are built.
Yeah,
most of those guys are just built with that. It's like they have their core is the biggest part of their body.
Yeah, yep.
Yeah, and I really like that. He's the only character other than like the Blob, who just looks the Blob is never really represented very well.
Yeah.
I just like to see it makes him atypical. There's nobody like him. There's no one in the comics like the Kingpin, even physically.
That's fair.
He's like I can't even think of parallels. He's got like once in a while he'll parallel a little bit of Lex Luthor. Once in a while he'll parallel this, but nobody's the Kingpin. Wilson Fisk is he's as robust as his hero counterparts. I guess that's the best way of putting it. A lot of the villains in the comics don't get to that status. Don't get to the point where they're as well realized as the heroes, and he absolutely is.
The weight of the Fisk delivered to the hero in that particular comic book scales how powerful that hero is in that particular time.
Mm-hmm.
Like we have
It's
this
true.
Daredevil Fisk, but man, the Into the Spider-Verse Wilson Fisk, he's just an itty bitty head on this huge body. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's. I mean, Daredevil's been around for what? He was 64. He was created. I said.
Or
64, 67.
In his yellow outfit.
He's 60 plus years old now. Yeah, I hated his original costume. Do you ever hear of a character called D-Man in Marvel?
D-Man?
No. D-Man. No.
D-Man is Dennis Murphy. It was short for Demolition Man. If you look up his original costume when Captain America stepped down from being Captain America and became what do they call him? The Captain or whatever. He basically had U.S. agents kind of look. Had that black Captain America outfit with the white and red stripes. It's basically the costume they ended up giving U.S. agent to Paul Walker, who stepped into the Captain America role. When Captain America stepped down because he didn't want to work for the government, he formed his own team, and it was him, Falcon, and D-Man, Dennis Murphy. The character ended up being weird, but his costume was strongly reminiscent of the original Daredevil. It was there's not a way for me to share an image, is there? To the chat.
Oh, we could add it to the video later.
Yeah, just maybe show the D-Man. He literally had what looks like a one-piece bathing suit in the middle with it's like a strong red burgundy color, and then yellow sleeves and red gloves. It was very reminiscent of the original Daredevil comic to me.
Oh. Yeah, look at that guy.
Yeah.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah. Yeah, it was, other than the fact that you could see his mouth, the comic was...
That Wolverine?
Was very...
Yeah, it kind of looks like a Wolverine.
Yeah.
Look at that.
Like a Wolverine Daredevil hybrid. Yeah, that's exactly...
I kind of like that costume.
I can't deal with I've never liked that one-piece bathing suit with sleeves and legs. I don't like it on female characters. I don't like it on male characters. Like it's just goofy looking.
That might be what I am for Halloween. I don't know.
There you go.
You could have a really fun twist with being D-Man for Halloween.
Oh, that's great.
That's great.
Oh man.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, no, that's the Wolverine from Wish. That's what that is. That's your Wolverine. If instead of Canadian, he's Catholic.
There's an article on Screen Rant that says a Marvel hero stole the worst parts about Daredevil and Wolverine's costume. There's an actual article about it on Screen Rant.
That's great.
Oh, so they're thinking what we're thinking.
Yeah, it's obviously been noticed before. I think he was part of one of the people that got his powers from Power Broker. You guys know about the Power Broker thing in Marvel Comics?
What's Power Broker?
The company Power Broker would give you superpowers, and it basically had kind of a set. You would get like the ability to lift press around 10 tons, durability, except, and they was basically you could pay to become pay to become a hero.
So would it be similar to the
was,
Secret Soldier formula?
yeah, the process was a little different.
Almost sounds
the
like
power
where they're
broker was
going
actually,
with the boys.
yeah, there was
Marketable serum
had that kind of well, and they have Sharon Carter calls herself the power broker in the MCU.
It's true.
So
Yeah.
they hinted to that being a something that they're actually going to do. But the power broker himself was, they don't ever say his name, but who he was. But I'm trying to see a list of the characters he created. But he made a ton of heroes and villains. And I'm trying to think of some of the people
what was the criteria for the power broker? What could you just walk in and say, "Hey, I want to be a superhero"?
Yeah, he literally deals in powers. You would go, and if you had the right money, you could get powers. That was his whole shtick. And there was
great. I have super healing, but the side effects is I have awful psoriasis on all of my body.
Right. Well, he in the comics too. He had he actually overdid it and created it him. He did it to himself and became a massive person. But yeah, he's pretty big in the comics. He's an interesting read. If you want to give something read, look up to the Power Brokers. He's been doing stuff inside the 616 for a long time. He's an interesting bit, and they never even say his real name. He's just the Power Broker. That's who he is.
Sometimes that's just.
I would be curious.
You know.
Yeah, I'd be curious if they did anything. Because I like the Sharon Carter actress and the character that they've developed in the MCU of her being kind of disenfranchised with the government and maybe a little bit the superheroes too in a way, because that shit always seems to be going sideways. So she's just doing her own thing now. And I think was she in Madripoor? I'm pretty sure she was in Madripoor in the comics, which is a huge Wolverine Easter egg sort of, because he spent a lot of time in Madripoor as Patch, and ruling that with Tiger and all kinds of stuff. So that's they have so many ways they could go. I mean, it's been around so long. There's so many different series. They're intertwined in so many ways. It's really exciting to see how they're going to take it.
Is it going to be a 10-episode season, kind of like what they've been doing lately with other series?
With Daredevil?
Yeah.
I
would love to see it go 13, 15 episodes.
I know. That's the streaming verse has unfortunately kind of ruined the 27 episodes a year kind of thing.
Yeah, they sure have.
I love that.
What's that?
I used to love that. Like, even
me too.
Just for instance, Star Trek. There was 20-some episodes each season.
Yeah, I miss the seasonal approach. It's 10 episodes, and then you wait a year, sometimes a year and a half or 2 years. I just miss that. I was correct. D-Man did get his powers from the Power Broker. So did John Walker, who's the guy who becomes U.S. agent, the one who was Captain America, took the role over in Winter Soldier. But he's Lamar Hoskins, Battlestar. He was originally he was going to be Bucky to Walker's Captain America, but ended up being Battlestar. There's a bunch of people, but there's a massive list of people who got the Power Broker things. I think even some of them were part of there was a wrestling. Do you remember the wrestling? You ever see the wrestling thing inside the MCU, or not the MCU, the Marvel Comics? The Thing was a big part of it. Titania.
They had like a big wrestling match.
No, there's a whole wrestling. It's like a wrestling.
It's like a comic
syndicate
series?
Or league. Well, I forget what it's called, but it was like in the comics it was the Unlimited Class Wrestling Federation. That was what it was called, and there was all kinds of
okay.
It was neat. It had all kinds of the Thing was in there and all kinds of stuff. It was pretty. But the Power Broker was giving people powers that were competing in there. It was part of the. He was actually making better wrestlers and parts of that. It was very interesting. It was a campy
so you have
time.
some
It was
superheroes doping, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Basically, and that's the height of. I'm pretty sure that corresponded with the height of when like the WWF was huge. You know, you had your Andre the Giants and your Hulk Hogan's and all these other different crazy characters, and Marvel Comics wanted to kind of bite into the wrestling part of it.
Turns out just as real as the WWF was.
Right, exactly. Just as authentic. Possibly more.
Yeah.
Possibly more. But yeah,
I think
it's good stuff.
If the Thing was in there, I'd like to see the Thing go against either the Hulk or even Juggernaut. I think that would
Unfortunately, the Thing gets his ass kicked by the Hulk all the time.
Well,
the Thing versus the Hulk has been repeated in comics many times. Many times has there been a Thing versus the Hulk. And I think the only time the Thing ever came out on top was when he is going through like a secondary mutation where he is becoming larger and more spiky. Because people oftentimes think of the Thing as large, and the Thing is not very big.
Ben Grimm, the ultimate skipping stone.
Yeah, exactly.
He is just a regular man size, just rock.
Yeah, he wasn't like he's been statue. He's not very tall. He's just a short, squat stone dude. But I think the best casting they've had. I loved Anthony Chiklis, even though the costume was a little rubbery looking. Chiklis as the Thing was a good casting of him.
I sure am hoping this Fantastic Four movie coming out is going to be good. I have not liked any of the Fantastic Four movies. I know studio rights. There was a thing that every 10 years, I forget which studio it was, they had to make a movie. So that's what they were doing, is they were making these shitty ass Fantastic Four movies just so they could keep the rights to make a movie in the future if they wanted to use the characters. So some real stinkers out there, but
yeah, it's
there was the one that I just remember Michael B. Jordan played as the Torch, and that was the one I did not care for. That Fantastic.
I did not care for that, but I'll tell you that I kind of like Michael B. Jordan as the Torch.
Yeah, he himself did a great job.
He personified. I thought he personified Johnny pretty well. But yeah, the movie they just missed the mark. They just missed the mark. I think the first half of that movie was actually decent. But once Reed escapes and kind of goes on the lam and lets the rest of the team be used to lets the Thing be weaponized by the military and stuff like whoa, you've gone off the rails here. What the hell?
Yeah.
But I'm usually cautiously optimistic about Marvel movies and shows and stuff like that, and I even like ones that are kind of voted stinkers. But I'm worried about this Fantastic Four movie. I'm a huge what's his face fan, but I don't like him as Reed Richards at all. Yeah. I don't see Pedro Pascal playing a genius in any situation. It's not an insult to the guy. I love the guy. He's a great actor. But I just don't see that. I've never seen him in any role or conversation or interview wherever he just came out as like, that guy's a fucking genius. You know what? Maybe he can act his ass off and he can do it, but I don't see it.
There's nothing Pedro Pascal can't do. I think he's going to nail this role. He's going to knock it right out of the park. I think so.
I hope so.
I agree with that take too.
Yeah, I really think so. I think he was discovered as an actor later in life too. So like he hasn't been in a lot, but he also hasn't had the chance to be in a lot either. So
I think he's been in more than you think.
Oh, really?
He's been up and coming. I think he was in the Kingsman movie.
Okay.
He was like a villain in that. I mean, he's the Mandalorian.
I mean, up and like I think I thought that like around the Mandalorian is where he started to really get into the spotlight of things.
He probably did, but
then Last of Us too.
He was in a fair amount of things. Well, and what's the other one? The other big one that he did.
The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent with Nick Cage.
Yes.
Oh, I love that movie.
But yeah, he was in the Kingsman. He was Oberyn in the Game of Thrones.
Yeah,
he was great as Oberyn in the Game of Thrones.
I would say he does suffer from a dumb-looking face, so that might get that might give him some problems from playing the role, because he looks like he might be a little dumb, but like, you know, he's also a very charismatic, fun guy to be around.
He just looks like he doesn't. I don't think he looks as. I would describe it as he looks grounded.
Oh, okay.
He looks like a guy who's like a guy of the earth, a guy of the, you know, like a grounded. He just looks. He gives that
a very wise
blue collar, like that blue collar kind of dirty hands working guy kind of vibe, and I like that about him. I think that's great. I relate with that. The nerdy guy who can't get the girl because he's so focused on creating new wonderful technology. That's Pedro Pascal. I don't. The guy who pulled off Oberyn. You know what I mean? It's
I think they're going to do this Fantastic Four a little bit on the comedic side in a lot of ways. So
it seems like
I have some concerns about that, but I mean, I guess we'll just have to give them a shot and see how it goes. You know, there was the first Fantastic Four movie that most people remember is the one with Jessica Alba as the Invisible Woman, which her acting was horrible because she was told not to act or like change her facial structure. Like she was told not to act, which was awful. But
it is, and it's too bad because I like Alba.
Yeah, so
I like her. I like a lot of stuff she has out there.
There was a movie made in 1995 for the Fantastic Four. Not many people got to see or hear about it, but it was a very
not many people should have.
Yeah, it was not a very remarkable release, but it exists, and I think you can find it on YouTube. Where it's that's a steaming turd right
difficult.
There. Yeah, it's sure
difficult.
is.
It's almost as bad as the motorcycle Captain America that came out around that same time too. There was a Captain America show that was around that time, and the guy he wore a motorcycle helmet with the wings. It was really bad. I mean, really bad.
Yeah, I don't remember that.
When I watch a movie, with my knowledge at this point, I could produce a better movie than what they put out. When it's that level, I know it's a really bad movie.
Yeah, it was bad. It was
like one of our last topics when we were talking about Thundercats Ho.
Yeah.
Or Thundercats Roar. I'm sorry, Thundercats Roar. And like, how did that even make it past production? It doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't.
It really doesn't.
Yeah, it's too much. I gotta show you this Captain America motorcycle helmet. Hold on.
It's so good
because it's just worth seeing. I gotta put the word "show" in there. Hold on.
Oh, Wayne, did you get through any more Solo Leveling?
No, I haven't watched it since the other day.
All right. I watched a little bit of it.
I'll see if I can get it up here. You can see it. Hold on. I don't know if I can get it up where you can see it. That light's blinding it.
Yeah.
But just Google Captain America motorcycle helmet show.
Yeah.
Captain America motorcycle helmet show and go to images. And it's the first one that pops up and it's wow, is it bad? Wow, is it bad?
Mm-hmm.
It and he had like an electric scooter for a motorcycle. I mean, the bike itself, it could have been. It had to be like a 250. You see it, Wayne? Oh yeah, look, his lighting is better for it.
Wow,
that's funny.
It's definitely not Chris Hemsworth. Or wait, shit, who's the actor?
Chris Evans.
Chris Evans, yeah. Got my Chris's crossed.
Yeah. There's another one.
Yeah, look at that. Yeah, it's so bad. I'm like, it was horrific.
I'm on the Captain America scooter.
Yeah. But going back to the Fantastic Four movie, so who knows what speculation is coming from what and stuff like that. But there has been some thought about them doing that the idea was that they're a 616 family. Well, excuse me. What's what universe is the MCU?
I think it's 616.
You're right.
616 is the main. 616 is the main comic book one. Even though they erroneously mentioned that in the movies, they say something about us being on 616. 616 is the mainstream of the comics. The comics that we all know and love is 616. I got to remember what it is. It's 19,999,999, so it's 199,999. So 199,999. So
that's basically
anyway.
how they get away with saying this is the mainline MCU universe that's 616, but not really 616, because that's for the
they kind of screwed that up. I mean, I think they've tried to cover up and say this is what they actually meant to do and retro and everything else, but it was a mess up. They're not in 616. But that family was part of the MCU universe, and whatever they did that gave them powers took them to a different reality, and they're living in a reality that's like a 60s science fiction. So it's a whole different kind of thing. And because there's pictures of Reed working on the board, and it's obvious that he's trying to create a bridge, and the bridge is a big part of the comics, creating these universal bridges, and that they're trying to get back home. And the reason nobody knows them as the Fantastic Four in the MCU universe is because they didn't have powers then. They were just a group of scientists, astronaut, etc. So they weren't notable as heroes.
Yeah.
But the thing that this opens up that's kind of interesting in the way that they might be able to bring back What's-His-Face as Mr. Fantastic as well as Pedro is the Council of Reeds. Reed Richards actually uses the bridge to bring in other versions of himself and create this like incredible think tank.
Hey, they did that on Rick and Morty.
Of Reeds.
The Council of Ricks.
They also did it in the Flash series. I forget the one character in the Flash series, the one that was originally the Reverse Flash had took over his role, the professor together with the wheelchair and stuff.
Eobard Thawne?
Yes, it wasn't actually Thawne though. Eobard Thawne was the Reverse Flash, but he just took over the guy's body.
Okay. Or like the Phoenix Force, got that too. The White Room.
It's Tom Cavanaugh's character. I'm trying to think of the name. I'm looking up the name. I can't remember the name of the character.
Tom Cavanaugh did a very good job in that series.
Yeah, Cavanaugh's great. I enjoy Cavanaugh anyway. Harry Wells, the Council of Wells. That's who he played. Harry Wells. But they had the Council of Wells. But it'd be kind of neat to do that because Reed Richards also becomes the Maker from the Ultimate Universe, and that's the one who's responsible for trying to make a prime Earth where all of the different realities are collapsing, etc. He's bringing them together where the Earths are going to duel up. So there's a lot of things there. That's how you could bring in X-Men. You could bring in all these different things and not have to retrofit them into you don't have to do the Captain Marvel thing where, we knew about her, but we kind of hid her and just kept her on this beeper in case it was emergency. You can have it where these characters were existed in a parallel universe, and then these universes were combined. So we'll see. I'm cautiously optimistic that they could do that, but so far everything I've seen about the movie makes me flinch a little bit. So we'll see.
We'll see. Just gotta give him a shot. Oh,
yeah.
Absolutely.
So going back to Daredevil, are there any other villains that we haven't talked about that you enjoy?
Well, I mean, obviously Elektra is a great love interest villain.
Yeah.
With her whole thing. We have Typhoid Mary was a huge
Gosh,
Daredevil.
The Hand in general is just they're vicious mercenaries. Yeah. Fair. Oh man.
Yeah, he had a lot of campy ones, like I said. Back in Mr. Fear. Hold on, how do you forget Mr. Fear? Mr. Fear was a huge one. That's because he got married Matt got married to a blind lady. And here, I think her name was Ellie or something of that nature. She wasn't a hero. She had no powers or whatever. But Mr. Fear becomes her therapist. It is exposing her to his fear gas and causing her to have irreparable psychosis issues to the point where she's terrified of Matt and all kinds of things. So Mr. Fear was huge. The Purple Man. Purple Man was a big villain of them. So he's had some significant ones, but I don't believe I could forget Mr. Fear. That's a huge one.
Anyone stick out for you, Wayne?
You know what? Other than Bullseye, and I don't even know if I'd call Punisher a villain. I mean, yes, he is.
Anti-hero, sometimes a villain.
Yeah.
But our talk on Wilson Fisk, he's definitely my favorite Daredevil villain.
Yeah.
By
he
far.
Is the Daredevil.
Yep.
Yeah. Spider-Man tries to share him. You know, he cleans it over, but to me, he's always going to be He's always going to belong to Daredevil.
Exactly.
My mind. Spider-Man hasn't enough.
Spider-Man has his own rogues gallery of.
Oh my God, he's got some of the best villains out there. Are Spider-Man villains. He can spare Kingpin.
Shout out to the Spot.
Yeah, that's right. Give us Kingpin.
Yeah,
just leave him alone.
Honestly, the Spot, believe it or not, is a huge Daredevil in the comics.
Yeah.
He actually, during that whole time when Mr. Fear was messing with Matt and his wife and stuff like that, he was appearing to Matt and interacting with him, and then Matt would go see why she wasn't in the asylum thing she was supposed to be in, and she is there. So he didn't know what the hell was happening. He thought he was losing his shit again, but it wasn't. The Spot was actually pulling her out.
That's so fucking cool. The Spot's trolling the blind man by pulling his girlfriend through portals. Oh, that's so hilarious.
He had his moments with the Spot too.
Yeah, I love the Spot in the Spider-Verse. My wife's favorite Spider-Man villain's the Spot too.
Really?
Yeah, the Spot. You know, what can you say? It's the Spot.
I know. My favorite thing from the Spider-Verse things is Spider-Punk.
Oh yeah,
I love Spider-Punk. He's fantastic.
Yep.
I've been trying to find. I want to get a really nice piece of like wall art of that character. Because as much as I like the Spider-Verse, the animation in it is not my style of animation. It just isn't my favorite. I really enjoy it. It's great. I understand how impressive it is, but I want to get a more comic accurate drawing of Spider-Punk. You know, so I've been kind of looking around for a good thing of that, but we'll see.
Yeah,
I really like that character.
We could go into a wormhole with Spider-Verse movies. At first, we
should do that. We should do that we should have a good Spider-Verse. Talk. That'd be pretty good.
The first probably like the first 5 minutes of the first Spider-Verse movie, I wasn't completely on board. I could see the frames in the animation. It was really bugging me out. I didn't like that too much right at first, but then they kind of turned a corner, I think, and just getting used to the animation. But what they did is they animated Spider-Man in lower frames per second until he became proficient as Spider-Man. So a lot of the glitchiness that you saw was just them trying to show in the medium that he wasn't as talented, so he looked more jostly and less put together. So that was a cool little effect they did.
And I liked it. I liked the animation a lot more in the first Spider-Verse than I did in the second one. It was too busy, especially when you had Spider-Man 2099 in there. I don't know. It's just so noisy. There's something happening there that just didn't sit as well to me.
Yeah.
Because I really like how Spider-Gwen is animated. I love the look of her in that series. I think that's a fantastic look for her. For her character. So, and I liked how they did Miles. I think Miles looks great.
Yeah.
But the animation sometimes in the second series, even when I forget what her character's name was, the one with the motorcycle, the girl with the
Penny Parker,
the big hair, and no, was it Penny? Not the armored one.
Oh.
What was her? I don't remember who the character was. She rode the motorcycle and she was older. Oh, was it Jess Drew? I think it was. I think it was supposed to be Spider-Woman.
Okay.
Yeah, 'cause she was pregnant. She was pregnant, remember? Yeah, that's who it was supposed to be. It was supposed to be Jessica Drew, but they made her Jess Drew. They kind of altered her from the comics, but
A little bit of a change there.
But yeah, but like when she was animated on the screen coming through the motorcycle, it's just like this doesn't look good. It's just weird. But I like the story so much that I'm sticking with it. You know what I mean? It was the fire when she's Spider-Gwen's running through there, kind of hiding from her father during that fire in that building, and they run into her and he kind of she reveals who she is. All that animation that's going on there is detracting from a really great scene, and it felt like they lost something there, but we'll see. Yeah. I still love the stuff, but
yeah. You know what? I ended up loving both the Spider-Verse movies. I'll have to double check them out again and try and put that lens on it a little bit and see it that way. But
yeah, the story carries it, which is what it should do. But I'm a visual person, so sometimes I get pulled off in too much. It's too much of a distraction for me.
Gotcha. So, good stuff, guys.
Yeah.
Well, do we have anything else on Daredevil or the our street level heroes?
I look forward to the Defenders coming back. I really, really hope. So Iron Fist is one of my favorite Marvel characters. I love the character. Danny Rand is a fantastic character from his own comic to Heroes for Hire with Power Man. Just really liked the character. He even actually was Daredevil for a time. He posed as Daredevil during the Registration Act so that people would stop associating Matt with the Daredevil thing. So he was posing as Daredevil. But just a little tidbit. But anyway, so I really hope that they either recast the guy that played Danny Rand, or they give him a bunch of steroids and make him not weigh $120 sopping wet, and they teach him how to hold his own in any kind of fight ever. Because the guy's a wet noodle that would have his ass beat by a 9-year-old girl having a bad day. I'm sorry. He's just...
I will say that as far as fight scenes, it was awful. I think they chose that character for his acting chops, but we need a different Iron Fist. I'll agree.
He stayed in there with his shirt off, which Iron Fist often has a shirt off. And Iron Fist is a lean character. He's not but he's still like
he's still built.
Fit.
Yeah,
that guy was not fit. He was thin, but he wasn't fit by any stretch of the word. And I don't know. I didn't mind him being Danny Rand, like when he's doing the business and dealing with his family and stuff like that. He played the character well, but he just does not fit the bill. As a matter of fact, if they were going to bring back anything, I would rather they bring back Colleen Wing as the Iron Fist. I loved that whole idea of making her, because to me she was the high point of that entire series. I love the actress. I loved everything she did with it. And Colleen Wing is good in the comics, but she was actually one of the few things that's better in the MCU than she is in the comics to me. That actress really did a great job in that role. So, and at the end of the Iron Fist series and the Defenders and stuff, she has the Iron Fist. She has that power. So I'd love to see them bring back her, because in the comics, Danny Rand is no longer the Iron Fist either.
Yeah.
He was created in a time when comics were, there's no two ways about it, comics were very whitewashed, and we've got this very Asian-based comic with all kinds of ability based in Asia, et cetera, and they've got a blonde-haired, blue-eyed guy doing it. So in the comics, Danny Rand has stepped away, and there's another, a little more appropriate thing. But I still hope they keep Danny Rand around, because it was created at a time when things were politically different and we handled things a little different, and et cetera. It's still a good character, and I don't want to see him discarded. So there's plenty of ways. You can be a hell of a lot more creative than just throwing them away in lieu of doing what people didn't think about 50 years ago. There's ways of acknowledging those kind of things and making it still work.
Well, I think they did that a little bit with Iron Man with the Mandarin, right? Like they made it almost a caricature in a way, and like they're like, hey, it was something in the past that was a little bit regrettable, and Marvel self admits kind of, and so they kind of poked at the character a little bit, but they still honored the character by having him have an appearance and showing him off in the movies. So
yeah, there's plenty of creative ways of doing it, and I hope that they continue to do it. But I would be plenty happy if they just made Colleen stay as the Iron Fist. I'd love to see her back. She's a great character. So
there we go.
We shall see. Yeah, we shall see.
So I do want to call out Mariah Baines' Red Room.
I was doing a little bit of the Daredevil
looks good.
It worked good. So the forward lighting kept it so you can still see me, but I could set it red. So
there you go.
I was working at it. I didn't. It was a long day for me. I literally got home from work at about 20 after 9. So I hit the shower, came in here, ate some Wendy's, and dove into Daredevil. And I'm like, well, I was like, Alexa, turn the room red.
There you go. It's almost like there's a neon sign outside your window because you can't see any different and you don't care. Are you secretly Daredevil?
Red.
That or I'm going to start getting some Johns knocking at the door.
I thought I heard some knocking.
Yeah.
It reminds, a little off topic, but it reminds me of a Seinfeld episode where they put a chicken sign outside Kramer's window, and it's just flashing red right inside of the apartment. And he comes over, hey Jerry, I'm bugging out. The light's so bright over there, and it's just like you see this bright light flooding into Jerry's apartment when he opens the door. His eyes are all bugged out.
I love it. I'll be okay as long as I don't hear anybody in the street being like, Roxanne! You don't have the red light.
Good stuff.
Too funny.
All right, nerds. Well, it's been a great episode. Good talking about some street level heroes. And we'll catch you all later, nerds.
See ya.
Have a good night.
Yeah.
Well, step aside and watch how my adoring fans flock to me.